Yo, welcome again to LFN What's Your Say? The leading listening show where we discuss real important issues with real people like you. We are featuring R. Kelly, real name Robert Sylvester Kelly, aka the R&B King. One question that has remained unanswered for years now is why the government chose to charge R. Kelly multiple times in multiple courts, and yet they could have simply combined all accusations into a single federal trial. First, R. Kelly was tried in New York, then in Chicago, and he was still destined to be tried again in Chicago State Court and later on in Minnesota. Whatever this was all intended to achieve to maximize their chances of a win against him, we cannot tell. What we know, however, is that the act of trying him in series denied him his amendment right against self-incrimination. The government deliberately chose to try R. Kelly multiple times in series on related charges purposely to frustrate his efforts to defend himself, and they succeeded in this considering he had to be careful what he said or didn't say during the first trial in order not to jeopardize the second, third and fourth trials that were yet to come. What the government did was comparable to tying up a man's hands to his back, and then asking him to fight for his life against multiple strong men that cared less if they broke his limbs in an unfair fight. And this is the very reason why the appeal court ought to allow R. Kelly another chance to defend himself fair and square, from all these rather bogus allegations that were targeted at him when he lacked an effective defense team. The evidence against the government is overwhelming. There is no doubt that they rigged the process when they decided to charge R. Kelly in 4 separate indictments. This left the defendant completely disarmed and exposed for the government to do as they pleased. Even if he felt his rights had been infringed on, he couldn't talk much after all. R. Kelly had been denied his amendment right that protects him from self-incrimination. Meanwhile, as he was being denied his rights, the accusers enjoyed their own through the multiple immunities that were also issued in a rather controversial arrangement. This saw alleged victims also require immunity from possible undisclosed crimes. Something that left many wondering just how a perpetrator could also be a victim at the same time. The real shocker, however, came from learning that it was indeed true these women had been involved in numerous dubious activities that did not exclude the telling of lies under oath, also known as perjury. Another reason the government could have chosen to prepare 4 separate trials is they knew well they had some seriously weak cases filed by these accusers, and therefore preferred to reserve them for a later dismissal. The government was careful not to disappoint these accusers such as hair braider Lanita Carter and the Minnesota accuser before the New York trial in fear that they could decide to ruin it all. Dropping their charges later was only a strategy to avoid them spilling the beans so early and ruining the other 2 trials. It's more like the Lanita Carters were placed in a recycle bin which they would later empty after achieving their goals with the R&B King. If these had been merged with the rest, this would have not been possible. The moment these women were told there would be restitutions in the end and also assured of immunities, they all became too eager to join in and get a piece of the action. Like that, they had to be broken down into categories of most likely to win a case, and those scheduled for last were bound to have their charges dropped. However, this caused R. Kelly to miss out on his amendment right against self-incrimination, a situation that limited his involvement in the trial process. It's so bad to see that R. Kelly was subjected to such limitations even before he could get started with the first trial. Additional to the ineffective counsel and the prejudicial jury, R. Kelly was completely disarmed by this move to break down the charges into multiple indictments, and an unfair verdict was inevitable. According to Oliver, I always mentioned that the splitting of the cases into 4 trials was a strategy by government to get as many shots as possible at locking up the R&B King. They were well aware that their cases against him were generally weak. This indeed explains how Judge Ann Donnelly gifted the accusers with wins even the prosecution was not sure to get. There is no way R. Kelly could have been guilty on all 10 counts in New York if the trial had been normal. I am waiting for the day the conspiracies by the government and those with an interest in R. Kelly's troubles will be exposed and the culprits brought to account. This has gone on for too long and needs to be stopped before the sacrifice by R. Kelly is way too much to be compensated. A man has been in prison for about 5 years now under such unclear circumstances. He was denied bail, BOP issues, the list is endless. According to Destiny, R. Kelly has suffered long enough at the hands of this government and of course those fueling the injustice against him. The challenge is that R. Kelly's matter is not far different from that of Michael Jackson. In both cases, there is a lot of money at stake and the stakeholders will therefore do anything within their means to make sure they keep him locked up in prison where he cannot cause any serious damage to their business. Just like the man who invented the water engine was wiped off the Earth's surface, these industries will not allow anyone that is able to run and operate on their own, especially if he is threatening their financial gains. My prayer is that he does not end up like Michael Jackson, God forbid. The idea of splitting R. Kelly's charges into 4 separate cases and trials was obviously an initiative by government to maximize whatever damage they had wished to cause on his career and reputation as a person. The main reason the other 2 cases and charges were dropped is because the government was not oblivious of the numerous legal mistakes they had made, and how these were going to only compound if they went ahead and tried R. Kelly in the 2 state courts. Otherwise, as said, these were meant to complicate R. Kelly's defense, and for this reason he deserves a retrial where he too can get the chance to speak up for himself without fear that he may self-incriminate. According to Matilda, the R. Kelly trials were all planned out purposely to deny R. Kelly a chance of finding justice himself. This is why we had certain charges that could have been combined within a single Chicago trial forwarded to the New York Federal Court of Brooklyn in search for a particular judge who they knew was already prejudicial towards him, and one that would be eager to send him to prison for the rest of his life. It's no wonder that eventually, the judge delivered exactly what they wanted the way they wanted it when she issued a 30-year sentence, specifying that R. Kelly would not be eligible for supervised release until after the 30 years. Judge Ann Donnelly probably mistook R. Kelly for a serial killer from the past when she came up with this rather exorbitant sentence. If you wish to take part in a live interview discussing any of these topics, let us know by sending an email to sashalfnmedia@gmail.com for scheduling. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.